travel. There's numerous places in this world. The only limits would be time, money, anything like that. But fellow Toastmasters and guests, when you determine where you're going to travel, how do you do it? Is it some place that you've wanted to go that's been on your bucket list, or some place that just pops into your mind that you hear about it and decide to go? My top bucket list was New Zealand, and I went last year to New Zealand, absolutely had a wonderful time. And my best friend decided that she was going to travel with me this year, was really feeling bad that she didn't go to New Zealand because I had a super good price. And so we were waiting for that price point to come down. That was my goal. Is I paid like $500 round trip to New Zealand. We were going to get that. Unfortunately, it didn't come down that low, so we were going for our ultimate second. And she goes, well, how about Ireland? I said, fine. I've wanted to go to Ireland as well. So, fellow Toastmasters and guests, why Ireland? I'm going to cover 3 points today as to why Ireland. First, people. Awe-inspiring landscapes and the tradition of a country that United States is like a drop in the bucket to the historical value that these countries in Europe have. First, we all know people in Ireland are super friendly. You hear that. They will go out of their way to be gracious to you. When we arrived, we flew into Dublin. My friend had not traveled overseas or anything, so we had that long flight. She was nervous. She's not a flyer, so it was pretty harrowing. We arrived in Ireland, get to Dublin, and it's a crazy city. We don't know how to get from the airport out to in town, so that was crazy to start out with. We get there, we were staying at an Airbnb which was outside of Dublin, so we had to figure out how to travel there. So it got kind of crazy, but everybody was super friendly. But the super friendly stuff didn't even start until we got to our Airbnb. The lady was just gracious, opened her home. We had the little Quonset huts, so basically where we stayed. We walk inside, there's a little heart, welcome Pam and friend, a bottle of wine, and this homemade brown bread that was just to die for. That was step one of our friendliness. Then, pubs. You hear that everybody is really friendly in the pubs. So we went to a pub that night as our first night in Ireland, and this old gentleman started just chatting with us. And it's hard to understand their accents. We were just trying to get used to it, but so we had our Guinness. And this gentleman was just talking, and he was so welcoming, telling us about his family, his wife, what he did, and how he drops into that pub every night for his drink. And pubs in Ireland are a family gathering. You see children, especially in some of the smaller villages. You see young children coming in there. You've got the big family affairs. You've got the women. You've got older women, all ages, the younger to older, all having either their sodas or their Guinness or any of this kind of stuff. And then they have also the music. I mean, just the traditional Irish music. You'll have a couple people that'll pull, have their guitars or their flutes or anything like that, and they'll all start singing and everybody joins in. It was such a cool warmth. We had the tourism ones where the tourism traps in Dublin where they sang the songs, but then we went to one super little town called Leenane for a hiking festival, and it was all locals. There were no other tourists there, and that was absolutely my most favorite time of that whole trip. And we saw Irish dancing, and we were involved with a bachelorette party. They call them rooster and hen parties there. And so it was just, you feel part of the country, even though they could look at you as a tourist, that you're the reason why our country is able to, continue, as in my industry, is tourism, but they graciously welcome you there. Next, country. The awe-inspiring landscape was amazing. We traveled the entire island. We drove from Dublin, circled around, went into Northern Ireland and came back. My friend did all the driving because it's left-hand side and we only had one driver, so we chose her. She's younger and a little braver than I am. But you go from the cities, and then as you get to you have all the old countryside, all the castles and everything that I mentioned earlier, but we hung mostly on the coast, and you start to travel up in what's newly known as the Wild Atlantic Way, and it's the whole west coast of Ireland, and it has it's the Cliffs of Moher, it has the Dingle Peninsula, and where You can travel and just the countryside, sheep, the small hamlets, the larger cities, and the castles. It was the most amazing, and I love mountains, but there was such dramatic coastlines and everything there. You have islands. We traveled out to what are known the Apil Islands, and you'll have whole communities and everything that they don't even use their vehicles there. There's a lot of bike riding. You'll hike up and you'll have these beautiful vistas. All the rock ledges, I mean, the driving is within, most of them are country lanes that are about this wide. The rock ledges and mass amounts of, the cattle, the sheep, every place, which it's just mind-boggling. With we walked around the one island, and they have the lighthouses, which were amazing, and there weren't a lot of people. We went in April and March, well, April and May we went, yes, and there weren't a lot of people there, but it was just amazing. It rained a lot, but the scenery was just, the blue lakes, amazing, never to be, I couldn't compare. And then you're driving along the ocean, and then all of a sudden you'll have a landscape. It's called the Burren landscape, which is, it's karst landscape, or the sandstone. So you've got this white, really deserty looking. So you have a variety of the different types of ecosystems, which was amazing. And just, it was hard to describe that. If I go back, or when I go back, I'll do just the West Coast, because that was enough to fill many, many days instead of going much faster. Next, the third point is the history and the tradition. The rock outcroppings. They had the stone monuments, which you'd be driving along and you'd see the stone monuments out there with the sides and with the pendulum on top. And you look at the ancient people that built those, and they had Giant Causeway, which was in Northern Ireland, which is basalt formations, and in a prehistoric monument in Newgrange, which was it's called a stone passage tomb, where I guess it's the solstice that it lines up perfectly. So amongst all of that, I drug my friend around nonstop to all of those and probably just inundated her with it. Those are the reasons why you should go to Ireland. I strongly suggest those. And possible reasons that you might be a little hesitant is driving on the other side of the road. It's doable. You get used to it. I suggest having a navigator, because I was the navigator, which really helped, because you're going opposite on traffic circles versus the other way. So you can understand the language. It's perfectly safe. So to reiterate, people are awesome, landscapes are great, and the history is amazing. So I highly suggest Ireland. Thank you.